Hey, Jen, can you hear me? Okay, we cannot hear you. Okay, well, we're going to figure this out, guys. You just hang with us and we'll go. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. Yay, they can hear me. I thought it was me because I have a new mic and I thought maybe I screwed something up. So, let's do it.
Michelle, can you hear me now?
Yes!
Oh, yay! Wonderful.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, so I don't know if anyone heard me in chat at all going through all of those at all. I was trying really hard waiting for Michelle. So,
That's okay.
I mean, I can start over. Kilco was here first, so definitely hello to you. Thank you for coming. We did have Jerry Black come in today. Cheers to you. And also, Cheech and I are drinking the Early Times Bottle and Bond to get started. Slapshot Brian is here. We appreciate you coming by. Sugar Kitty is here, and he is meowing at everyone. Cheech is here, saying hi to everyone and doing his mod thing. We appreciate it. Isaias Venezuela, thank you for coming also, and saying hi to Cheech. Melissa, thank you for coming again. Cheers to you. Thanks for coming to the chat. If you are not subscribed, please do. We do enjoy having more people with us. Adriana, thank you for coming and always being a good support for the Women of Whiskeys. We have Lilith. Awesome. So wonderful to see you. I'm happy you're here. I hope you have a great day. And we have Bourbon Bites, Clifton. Thanks for coming by. If you are not subscribed to Bourbon Bites, please go ahead and check him out. If one of the moderators want to drop his link, please do. He does have a couple of different types of videos out there. You can definitely find something that you will enjoy.
Okay. Now, can you hear me? Am I good?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay. Sorry, I thought it was me, and so I unplugged everything.
It was weird because I could hear you just fine, so.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I know Jen's been going through and saying hi to everybody, and thanks for hanging with us while we figure out our technical difficulties. So, we have an exciting case tonight. I'm super excited. I know Jen's super excited. So we're going to go through a case about Stacey Castor. Now, Stacey Castor is like a real life Black Widow. She was a bad girl. I'm not going to lie. So give you a little rundown real quick, and then we're going to find out about our cocktail. So Stacey actually killed 2 of her husbands and tried to frame her daughter and tried to kill her daughter, saying that her 11-year-old killed her dad. So definitely not a nice woman. There's a lot of twists and turns in this case. I'm excited to take you guys along. But before we get into that, could you tell us what we're doing? I got my ingredients here, but I've never had this, Jen. So tell me about it.
Okay, so this is a Blizzard cranberry bourbon cocktail. I actually got it off one of the websites called the Sample Palette. They do different types of cocktails depending on the season. So right now, cranberries are very in because Thanksgiving is coming. So I thought maybe we could do a little twist on that. Cool. As you can see on the screen, Cheech has put up there what the actual recipe is. It's actually a pretty easy cocktail to do because there's not any, I guess, special stuff. You don't need a muddler and things like that. All you have to do is put all the ingredients in and then pour it over ice and have your lemon wedge and you're good to go. So the bourbon that I chose, it says any bourbon that you don't mind sipping. Obviously, you don't want like your top shelf stuff, but things you don't mind mixing in cocktails. So what I used, which will probably not be a surprise, is I like the Michter's small batch bourbon. And that is the bourbon that I used in the cocktail this evening. The unsweetened cranberry juice, they say not to use the cranberry cocktail, but if you can't find any that's unsweetened or non-cocktail, it's fine. You can just use whatever to mix it. And then the lemon juice you can use freshly squeezed or just the lemon out of the, I guess they make it out of a plastic thing, a lemon juice. And then your simple syrup. So, and then you mix all of those together and then you pour it over ice. We have little ice balls, so which we were thought we were kind of cool.
Okay, so I'm putting in my bourbon.
Yes.
And then I went with the it's like a light cranberry juice cocktail. That's what I got. So we're gonna put that in.
Yeah.
Okay. And my lemon juice. And my simple syrup. How much simple syrup was it, Jen?
So the simple syrup is only an ounce. It's not very much at all. Okay, bourbon bites. I see you said it sounds yummy. It actually is very good. I like tart things, so this definitely is more my speed with drinking. Anything tart, lemon, lime, cranberries, blackberries, raspberries. I really like the tart, especially in a mixed drink. It mixes well with all different types of liquor that you want to use. Nate from Bubble Bath Bourbon, you're right. You could definitely cut the syrup if you're going to use a cocktail that already has sugar within it.
I think my ice ball is smaller than your ice ball.
All right, so and then you just garnish with a lemon wedge, pour it over, and you'll have one of these little delicious cocktails.
I thought it was going to be too sweet, but it's not. Mm-mm. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
It's actually tart. Even I was worried about all that simple syrup. I thought it was going to be too sweet, but it's not at all.
Yes, I enjoy it. It's definitely not too sweet, and the tart does cut out a lot of the bite that you're going to get either from the bourbon you choose or the cranberry juice you choose. But it's one that you can definitely mix and match. That's the wonderful thing about cocktails. You can definitely curtail it to your own palate and what you enjoy. And that's the really big thing. Lilith Morgan.
I do. I really do. I'm just saying.
Well, I'll send you where we got them. Biking bourbon. Yes.
Yeah.
There's all different sizes of ball molds that you can buy off Amazon. It's a wonderful thing. So
I need to buy bigger ball molds.
Bigger ball molds. Yeah.
Hey, Adam, how are you? I see some more people popping in. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Richie Z, good evening. It's awesome to see you. Cheers.
So, okay, well, we have our drinks and we have our people, we have our peeps, and we have a great case. So, what do you think, Jen?
All right, so we can definitely hop into our case today of Stacey Castor, who is also known as the Antifreeze Killer. All right, everyone, let's get into this case today with Stacey Castor. We do have to go a little bit into her background because of how many people she has taken out through this time frame. So we're going to start Stacey Castor. She was actually had met and married her first husband in 1985. She was able to have 2 children with this man. 1987 was for her oldest daughter, Ashley. And then in 1988 was her youngest daughter, Bree. So this is Ashley at age 8. And then this is her daughter, Bree, her youngest. Now, as life goes on, they had started to grow apart. They had, worked different schedules and all of this. So they decided, Stacey decided that she was kind of going to look for maybe a divorce or another way out. He just didn't have what she was looking for. She stated that he was having drug and alcohol problems. And she just wasn't happy, and she was, ready to go to her next step in life. So around 1995, Mike had children from a previous marriage, and they had come to stay with them. It did not turn out well to have the mixed family together. So Mike's kids actually left and was a big problem facing their marriage. So around 4 years later, after all of this tumultuous relationship, in 1999, Mike started to feel really sick and off. He didn't feel well. He felt unsteady. His family really didn't. They kept telling him, you need to go to the doctor. We're noticing these things. And I mean, he actually went to the doctor in late 1999, and his doctor just stated, you know what, we think it's an inner ear issue of why you're not steady on your feet. You're just going to have to work through it and all of that. So he got really sick, weak, and imbalanced in 1999.
And they were saying that there were times he couldn't even get out of bed. Like he was so weak and lethargic. And so all this was going on at the end of the year around the holidays. And so in January of 2000, after the holidays, now at this time, Ashley's like 11, their oldest is 11 years old. And she had to go pick up her sister from school. And she looked over and her dad's on the couch, and she said he was making funny faces, not feeling good, making these weird faces. And at one point kind of lifted his arm up and then just let it drop. And she thought, well, he's been sick. I got to go get my sister. So she went and got her sister. And when they came back, there was an ambulance in the driveway. And they said, go over to your neighbors. And then she found out that, yes, her dad had passed away while she was gone. So after all this, Stacey gets a $50,000 life insurance policy. She uses it to, for funeral expenses, to pay off some debt. And then she takes the kids on this trip to Disney World, which people are like, okay, I guess that's not that weird. But they were kind of like, these are some strange circumstances going on here, It was, nobody really understood what had happened, but they chalked it up to, it's a heart attack. She had said he had a lot of heart disease and a lot of problems. So everybody wrote it off as a heart attack. When they asked if she wanted an autopsy, the family kind of thought she should, but she's like, no, it's a heart attack,
Absolutely. His sister actually pushed for an autopsy because he was only 38 when he had his heart attack. And even with the drug and alcohol condition as well, they were still stating that it was still kind of young for him to have our heart attack and kill over a couple of weeks after going to the doctor.
Yeah. So she says no. And he is buried in a local cemetery. And that is the end of that. So they go to Disney World, and it's just the three of them. They get really tight knit, mom and her two daughters. The daughters loved it. They had mom all the time. Everybody said they were such a close knit family. And so Stacey gets a job. She is an office manager of an HVAC company, and she starts to date her boss. So her boss, David Castor, they get married in 2003. So, right off the bat, the girls were not happy about this. They liked their time that they had with their mom. And David had been previously married and had children from that marriage. And he apparently said to the kids, I don't want to be your dad. I'm already a dad. I don't need to be a dad to more kids.
Yes, both of the girls, Ashley and Bree, had both stated that David was very vocal about the fact that he did not care one way or another if they were at the house, that this was his second marriage and he had already done the dad thing.
Yeah, can you imagine? And as a mom, I couldn't even imagine that. But meanwhile, they stay married now. It's 2003 by they start getting really rocky when David's daughter from the previous marriage was getting in some trouble, moved in with them. And Stacey was like, no, she's a bad influence, get her out. She sent her back. and the marriage started getting rocky. They were fighting all the time. He was very strict with the girls, and they were, bucking that thought. And then in 2005, he dies of a suicide with some really weird circumstances. Suicide by antifreeze.
Yes.
So David wanted to take Stacey on like a second honeymoon. He wanted to go for 2 weeks with no kids. And she's like, I can't leave my kids for 2 weeks alone. And they got in this huge argument. And according to her, it lasted about 7 hours off and on. Both kids did say they could hear them screaming in the garage and whatnot. And she said that he went into his bedroom and locked the door. So they get in this massive argument. And then on the following Monday, Stacey goes to work and calls 911 from her work phone. So she's not even at home. She's at work. And she's like, I think I should call 911 because now I'm worried about my husband. I don't know. I was looking at the statistics when I was looking this case up, how rare it is that people call 911 from somewhere other than the actual incident. So that was kind of a thing that got people, looking at it. So she said she was worried about him, that he had put himself in the room. She had so like Southern Comfort. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes,
she was pretty concerned. She hadn't seen him the whole weekend and he didn't show up for work. And she'd been calling and calling and calling and he wouldn't answer his phone.
yeah, so she had stated that he had locked himself in the room with a bottle of liquor and was just mad and he was getting drunk and that he had locked the door. He wouldn't answer the door. She said she tried to call the house, she tried to call his cell phone, and she only didn't get concerned until he did not show up to their shared workplace. So they decided, she called a bunch, nothing happened. She called the police and said, the door's locked. I've been able to hear him, but he's not answering the door.
And she's like, will you meet me out at the house and we'll do a welfare check on him, make sure he's okay. So the weird thing was when the officer arrived at her house.
Nice, Cheech.
Yes, Cheech, we've seen that. We've seen you do that. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
So when the officer shows up, she's sitting under a tree in a lawn chair, just relaxing, having a cigarette.
Yes, Clifton, she should have. Personally, I think if my loved one locked themselves in a room and if it was more than an hour or so, I'm probably going to get a screwdriver. I'm doing something to open that door because I'm concerned that my loved one's locked in here with a bunch of liquor. They're not answering me. So to your point, Clifton, I absolutely agree. I would have probably tried to get into that room a lot quicker than, a day or so until, my husband didn't show up for work.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I don't know. I mean, it depends on how big the fight was. I might let him stay in there for a week. So the weird thing was when the officer got there, she's chilling out. So he goes in and heads to the bedroom and she hangs out on the porch. She doesn't follow him in, nothing. And the door's locked. He's not getting any answer. He doesn't want to just kick in the door. So he peeks in the window, but he can't see in the window. So he goes back. He says, I have to kick in your door. She doesn't follow him then either. She goes down to the basement. I don't think we really know why.
No, she doesn't really state why. I think it's more that she was getting out of the way. The police really didn't state why. They just thought it was odd.
Yeah. So he kicks in the door and here's this guy completely naked, laying across the bed with vomit all around him. And he's very much dead. Like, he's dead. And it looked like, he had the vomit was under his fingernails. It was on some sheets that were over here in the bathroom. It was just really weird.
Absolutely.
And they actually buried him by her first husband. And then she has a plot in the middle. So it goes husband one, her, husband two.
Yes.
She wrapped that up in a tight little bow.
Yes, I found that extremely odd. A lot of the articles I read and some of the websites that I read where people were able to comment, that was one of the biggest things that people were not really happy about. They're like, why would you put yourself between two husbands? It was very odd. Um, yes, he was naked, Adriana.
Yeah, because he was so mad that he got naked.
Yes. So after they buried him, so let's go back to the scene a little bit. When the police broke down the door and they found David Castor naked across the bed, they looked on the nightstand. Right, so here's a picture of the crime scene. So they notice you've got the cranberry juice, you have two glasses, one with this orange, or no, I'm sorry, green, ugly, disgusting color. You have apricot flavored brandy, and then you have another glass that's completely clean. So this was the first scene that the police found. The second one was that they found a empty bottle of antifreeze under the bed. Now, also on the sheet, you'll see where there is blood where he was puking. So I did a little background on what antifreeze actually does to your system. So antifreeze takes like 48 to 7 days to kill you, depending on how much you have ingested at that time.
Mhm.
And what it does is that it creates these crystals in all your organs and it basically suffocates you. And then it makes you hallucinate and then it makes you throw up a lot and you seizure out and you die. So it's a
Yeah.
very painful, long drawn out death. So when the
Ooh.
police are looking at this, they're like, first, he works for an HVAC company, right? So he is aware of what antifreeze is, what it does, and obviously not to ingest it in any way. So Stacey decided that she was going to tell police that when her and David were watching a special on TV about a woman that had killed two of her husbands with antifreeze, and that is how David got the idea to ingest the antifreeze himself to kill himself.
Because
So,
of the story.
because of the story and the news report that they were watching together, that he found the idea to kill himself through antifreeze.
Well, but here's the thing that struck me about all this part is that the coroner was saying this is an agonizing way to die, like just horrible. And he had a shotgun loaded under the bed. So
Absolutely.
wouldn't you like just put yourself out of your misery at that point?
Yes. And so that, like, the scene just doesn't make any sense at all. So police are utterly confused. So as they're going through the house, they also find a turkey baster in the trash can, like right on top. They noticed that it smelled like alcohol and that it had remnants of antifreeze within it.
Mm-hmm.
After they did further testing on it, they had found that there was David's DNA on the turkey baster.
Yeah.
Also, on the glasses, the only fingerprints that were on the glasses were Stacey's. And then also on the antifreeze bottle, the only thing on the fingerprints there was Stacey.
And
So,
the antifreeze bottle was on top of the vomit.
yes, on top under the bed. So it's like poking out. And then when the cops lifted to look up to pull more stuff out of the bed is when they found the loaded shotgun. And of course, and exactly to your point, they're like, if I'm going to kill myself, I'm just going to take the shotgun because it's going to be quick, done, and I'm out. I'm not going to put myself through 3, 4, 5 days of misery to see if I'm sure I want to go out. Um,
Yes,
yes,
Adriana,
absolutely.
that's what I would do. I mean, I've already bought the turkey baster just in case I ever get to that point.
Yes. So they could not figure out all of the evidence. Obviously, Stacy's story wasn't making any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2007, the police decided that they are going to do wiretaps. They're going to wiretap the house, and they're also going to set up cameras by the grave sites because they figure a grieving widow, two husbands within a 5-year span have now passed away. One of suicide, one of a heart attack. So it makes it look like she's like this shrinking violet of all of this drama and trauma happening to her at this point.
Yeah.
So and what was interesting to them is that she never once came to the grave sites of
Mm.
either husband, not to hand flowers, not to bring her daughters to their own
Yeah.
father's grave, nothing. Like it was there was nothing there. She never came.
And
Um,
they never picked anything up on the wiretaps of her talking about the deaths of her husband. It's like she just wiped him off the map.
yeah, it was like nothing happened. We're
Mhm.
gonna take whatever the autopsies are saying, whatever the doctors are saying. They know what they're doing. We're gonna take their word for it, and we're just gonna go on.
Yeah.
In 2007, because detectives were so diligent in what they were doing, and they were able to show the DNA evidence and the evidence from Stacey herself, the crime scene, they were able to convince a judge that to go ahead and exhume her first husband, Michael Wallace's body, to see if there is any similarities within the deaths because he was only 38 when he passed away and there was not an autopsy done at that time.
And that is really, really rare. That's really hard to do, to get a judge to sign off to dig up a body.
It takes a lot. Sometimes it can take almost 6 months to a year for a judge to even decide to exhume a body just because of the trauma or the emotional pull that it can take on the family.
Yeah.
Not just to prove the case, but I mean, that's their loved one that's been, put to rest, and now you're, digging them up. So it can cause a
Yeah.
little bit of ill feelings. So judges really do take their time before they sign off on exhuming a body.
Well, and so they exhumed the body and then immediately did the autopsy. At this point, they're like, this is just too many coincidences. Let's see what's going on with this guy. Now, remember, he died of a heart attack. So in the autopsy, he had absolutely no signs of heart disease. However, he was full of crystals. Remember how we talked about those crystals that form in the organs? Well, those crystals don't ever go away. When you ingest antifreeze, your liver and some of your other organs, these crystals form and they don't ever dissolve. So the coroner actually called and said, this guy is loaded with crystals.
Yes. And so when he was doing the toxicology, not only was Michael Wallace loaded with crystals, they were also able to find traces of rat poison in his system as well.
Yeah, just for backup.
Just in case.
Yeah.
I want to make sure you get that exclamation point there.
God. So then, so September 7th, they go see Stacey and they're like, hey, we just want to clear a few things up and, tie this up in a bow. And she was like really irritated that they wanted to talk to her again. Like, isn't this over with yet? I mean, isn't this done?
Hi, Raga. Thanks for joining us.
So she goes back down to talk to them and they're like, hey, so do you remember which glass you handed him the cranberry juice in? And she's like, well, when I poured the cranberry juice.
Yes, right off the bat in the interview. And that was really the only question other than, what happened. She reiterates, the scene. And then when they ask her about which glass the cranberry juice was in, she said antifreeze. And like right then and there, you're like, come on.
So, okay, now remember this. She didn't say antifreeze. She said antifree. And that's a point to remember for when we get just a little bit farther down, because that's a very key point in this case, actually. So then on September 12th, the police go to see her daughter Ashley at college. Sugar Kitty. And it was her very first day of college. She's excited. She's nervous. And the police show up and let her know, hey, by the way, we dug your dad up. He didn't die of a heart attack. He was actually poisoned with antifreeze and rat poison.
Yes.
I mean, God, this poor girl. I mean,
so you're at your first day of college. You have investigators coming to tell you that your dad, that had passed away over 7 years ago, which, you're like, oh, he had a heart attack. That sucks.
While
But
I
that's
was
something you
there.
can accept, But now all of a sudden it's bringing up those old feelings of, oh, well, by the way, he did not die of natural causes. He was actually murdered. And for an 18, 19-year-old girl who had lost her father, that's a lot to take in.
Well, she's already carrying this residual guilt of the fact that she was the last person to see him, and he kind of put his hand up, you know. So so anyway, she calls her mom. She's really upset. They came to my school. And Stacey's like, they came to your school? That's it. I'm coming to get you. So she goes and picks up her daughter and says, you know what we should do? We should get drunk. It's been a stressful week. Let's drink some cocktails.
Yes, that was her answer. She's like, just come on home. It's been really rough. We can connect because Ashley and Stacy were actually very, very, very close. And actually, they had called each other best friends at one
Yeah.
point. So Ashley's like, okay, mom, I'm going to come home. I'm already upset.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and have some drinks. Now, mind you, they had never drank together before, so this wasn't like a mother-daughter thing that had happened often. She's
Yeah.
only 18 or 19, so she just comes home and she's like, "All right, mom, let's have a few cocktails and let's talk this out."
So she's excited. I get to drink with my mom. This is kind of cool, you know? So Stacy makes the drinks, and Ashley immediately starts kind of going, gosh, I feel a little nauseous. I don't feel good. I'm going to go to bed. So she goes to bed. She wakes up in the morning with a little bit of a hangover, goes to school, but she only has a morning class. So she gets out of school, and her mom says, you know what? We should drink again. Let's drink again.
Yes. Yeah, the next day. So
Yeah.
it's not even a 24-hour period. She's like, "Hey, you went to class. We really didn't drink as much as I wanted to. Why don't you come on home and we'll have a few more drinks?"
And she's like, Mom, it's not even noon. And she's like, it'll be noon by the time we get all our supplies to make the drinks.
Yeah, so her mom was really pushing her to come on home. Let's drink some more. Let's loosen up. Let's try to drown our sorrows,
Yeah.
sort of say, because police are bringing all this old information and now they're trying to blame someone. I
Yeah.
mean, they obviously did not tell her that we think it's your mom, but that someone out there
Right.
has taken out your dad, and that's a lot to take in.
So Stacy makes the drinks, and Ashley's like, God, this tastes like crap. She's like, I don't like it. I don't want to drink it. It tastes like crap. Mom said, oh, okay, well, here, let me show you a trick. And she brings her a straw and says, just put the straw in the back of your throat and drink it, and you'll get drunk and won't have to taste it.
Yes, and Cheech, you should drink the cocktail I made you because I made it out of the same cup, so we're drinking the same.
Be wary, Chief. Be wary. I've been talking to Jen all week, and I'm telling you. So she does what her mom says. She drinks this with the straw in the back of her mouth. And I think she just, at this point, kind of want to make her mom happy. She starts feeling really tired, really sick again. So she goes to bed. Now, the next morning, her little sister goes in and finds her completely unresponsive. Her eyes are open, but she can't communicate. She can't move. She's messed up. Something's wrong.
Yeah, so Bree comes home and, she's like, "Oh, cool, my sister's home. She's in her old room. I'm gonna go see her." And she goes in trying to talk to her, and just like you said, she's laying in bed, her eyes are wide open, but she cannot communicate in any way at all. Like she just looks like she's completely gone. She's still breathing a little bit, but it's very shallow at this point.
Yeah, so Bree, she's 3 years younger. She's freaking out. So she starts screaming for her mom, call 911, so Stacy calls 911, and she's very distraught and she's very hysterical. And so she says, my daughter drank a whole bottle of vodka and took Ambien. And meanwhile, Bree is just beside herself, and she finds this note. It's like a typed note, and she gives it to her mom.
Yes,
So
the note is a little bit contentious. So when Bree first went into the room, per what Bree states to the police and when she gives her testimony, that there was not a note anywhere when she went into the room. The only thing she saw was like a pill bottle and the cocktail like glass gone. And so she was concerned, and then when she goes back into the room is when the letter is found.
yeah. Oh, did you see that with Richie Z? Richie Z, thank you. You're so sweet. I love Richie Z.
He is awesome. We love you, Richie. Thanks.
So, And I'm horrible at telling a story and interacting with chat. So every now and then I look up and see one. So I'm not ignoring you, I promise.
Yes, Clifton, these girls went through a whole lot.
And so Bree starts to read this note. She hands it to her mom, and her mom gives it to the police. It's typewritten. And in this note, it says, I did it. I know, Mom, that they think it was you. And she said, Mommy, throughout the whole note. It is to Mommy. Dear Mommy, Mommy, I'm so sorry. I know they think you did it, but I did it. I killed them. Um,
Yeah.
but in this note, she refers to how she killed them with antifreeze.
5 different times in a 750 word typed
Yeah,
suicide letter.
antifreeze. Okay. First of all, did you not read the bottle? But okay.
I mean, you're using it to take people out. You would you would think you would at least see the label.
Yeah. I'm like, all right. So this is supposed to be some kind of confession and note. So anyway, she goes to the hospital.
Absolutely. So on September 14th of 2007, the paramedics show up to get Ashley. So when Stacey makes this call to the paramedics, she's like, "My daughter's unresponsive. She's tried to commit suicide. She took a bunch of pills and alcohol, and I have this suicide note that she left." And she mentioned this suicide note multiple times, not only to the 911 caller, the paramedics that showed up, and to the police. And then as
Mhm.
soon as the police showed up, she handed them the suicide note.
Yeah.
So they bring Ashley to the hospital. Now, doctors were very concerned. They stated after they had done all the tests and got her stable that she was about 10, 15 minutes away from her body completely shutting down.
Yeah, her sister saved her life, flat out.
Absolutely. If Bree did not come home, Ashley would have probably been buried next to her
Mhm.
father in the same cemetery with them. So once they were there, so Ashley wakes up. So the last thing that Ashley remembers is she felt kind of sick. She went to bed at her mom's house, and now she's waking up in the hospital. So she's waking up, and the police are there, and they're peppering her with questions. They're like, "Why did you write this suicide note? Why did you try to kill yourself? Did you kill your dad? Why would you kill your stepdad?" Like, completely confused. There's this 19-year-old girl who just woke up from like a massive hangover. She has no idea what's going on, and she's getting all these questions, and she's just massively confused. So they keep asking, and they're saying, "You wrote this suicide note. You wrote this suicide note." And then finally, she's like, "Listen, not only did I not write a suicide note, I have never killed anyone ever." She said, "When my dad died, I was 11. My stepdad passed away. I was, almost away at college." She's like, "I did not do these things." Now, when they say that Ashley committed the murder of her dad, she was only 11 years old. So this little girl, Ashley, would have taken out her dad by giving him antifreeze and rat poison.
And then at the age of 18, 19, used a turkey baster to kill her stepdad.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and just like you said in the suicide letter, everything states it's all my fault. I don't want my mom to take the fall for something I did. Very all about, my mom is awesome and she would never do this. And I can't live with myself knowing that you're going to blame her
Yeah.
for this case.
My
So,
mom.
yeah, don't blame my mom, for something I did. So the police are like, with everything that they have now between the first husband's death, the second husband's death, all of the DNA evidence, all of the toxicology, they're like, let's just go get this chick. It's time to arrest her. So on September 15th, so the next day, they arrest
Mhm.
Stacey Castor for the second-degree murder of David Castor, the attempted murder of Ashley Wallace, and then also the forgery of a will. So the forgery of a will comes
Yeah.
in to David Castor. So his will, before it was altered, left nothing to Stacey Castor or her daughters. Everything was
Mhm.
left to his children and his ex-wife. Um, when they questioned the ex-wife, she stated that they ended on amicable terms. There was not a big deal. And when they had spoken to her previously, she said there's absolutely no way that he would have committed suicide, and he wouldn't have done it in that manner due to him owning an HVAC business.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew what would happen if that kind of liquid was ingested into his system.
Well, and the weird thing about that is, like, the will that she forged was like, they get nothing.
They get
Me and my
nothing.
daughters get everything.
Right. And with that forged will, it afforded her to actually sell the shared business for
Yes.
over $200,000. So she forged the will. She got a payout that was not meant for her, nor did she have the right to actually sell the business.
And they
So
did
there was a
prove
lot
that it wasn't
attached.
his signatures, because the sister like gave him all these samples of the signatures, and then
Right.
they're like, no.
Right. Absolutely. So they got her on those charges. So as the investigation is going through, they have to make a decision if they're going to let the evidence of Stacey's first husband, Michael Wallace, into evidence for this case to support what they're stating with the antifreeze on David Castor's murder. They were able to give enough information where on September 25th of 2008, the judge ruled that the death of Stacey's first husband, Michael Wallace, could be introduced into evidence. So they were able to use not only his autopsy and toxicology and relationship issues that built up to show and support everything that happened with her second husband, David Castor's murder.
And that's huge. That's not, I mean, that's very debatable in a lot of ways. So, I mean,
It
they
is.
really had a lot of stuff stacked on her to where they were able to get that done.
Absolutely. I think with the DNA evidence, the toxicology reports, the different statements from family and friends, and from
Hmm.
Stacey herself and her children, they were able to
Yeah.
determine that it would not only be beneficial, but it would push the case even more. Now, with the evidence they had, they could have convicted her just because of the DNA and the toxicology evidence and the forged will on David Castor himself.
Well,
I think
and
Michael
they,
Wallace was more just to support everything that they were showing.
well, part of that was they found such a large amount of prescription drugs in Ashley's toxicology, the daughter. Remember, there was all kinds of, there was very little alcohol actually, but a
Absolutely.
montage of prescription pills.
Yes. So she had painkillers in her system. She had sleeping pills in her system, along with anti-anxiety medication in large doses.
Hmm.
So during the trial, which started on January 12th of 2009, they
Hmm.
were able to show that the amount of drugs in Ashley's system that Stacey would actually have to almost force feed her more liquid of these crushed up pills and all that stuff while she was in and out of consciousness to keep up the amount of drugs that they found in her system.
Turkey
So
baster.
right. So that is what the prosecution and the police also believe that she did with David Castor is after he was already sick and passed out, she was going in with the turkey baster and just opening his mouth and just like squeezing the liquid in, get it more into his system to hurry up this process in order to just, take him out, get it over with, and move on with her life.
Goodness.
Yes. So during the trial, both of her children actually testified against her.
Yeah.
Ashley was the biggest proponent in testifying against her, and she was very vocal throughout this entire trial. It is said when Ashley took the stand for the prosecution, and she's emotional and she's telling this her account of what happened, how it makes her feel that, her own mom is putting this on her and that her own mom tried to take her out in order to be the scapegoat so that she could just live on with her life and not have any repercussions for her actions.
Oh,
So and to be honest, as a mom, I don't think I could sit there and watch my child like bare their soul like that and have no emotional reaction. And the court noticed that as well. They noticed that Stacey had no emotional reaction at all when either of her daughters testified against her during what happened and all of that.
because
Bree's
she has no
testimony,
soul.
no conscience, right? She's not really into anyone else but herself.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
Stacey took the stand in her own defense and blamed Ashley for the entire thing. Said
Yeah.
that, she must have some mental issues that would make her do these things. She was jealous of her sister's relationship with their father, and that's why she took him out, Michael Wallace. And then she took their stepdad, David Castor, out because he didn't like them. And why should we have to deal with you? So I'm going to go ahead and take you out as well.
Hmm.
So Stacey is basically painting her daughter as a serial killer by the time she is 18 by taking two people out and then essentially trying to take herself out and, absolving Stacey of all of these crimes that she did herself.
Well, and people did say like, and this is where Stacey latched onto it, and I think this is actually what gave her the idea to frame Ashley of all people, is because the family members and friends would say that that honestly, her dad and Bree, the younger sister, had a much closer relationship. That maybe he favored Bree over her, and so it was very easy for Stacey to spin that. But Ashley goes on later in her life to say, I never felt like my dad favored Bree over me.
No, that was more Stacy. She had
Mhm.
built that best friend relationship with Ashley early on. And then when Bree came, it was stated that, he did spend more time with Bree than he did with Ashley at times, but those
Mhm.
times Ashley was with her mom. So it was like they were both building bonds with the other parent instead of all being together and building those bonds.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a stronger pull to each parent from each daughter, but not to the point where an 11-year-old is going to take out their own father because of
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it wasn't like friction. So,
No.
well, and then, okay. So after all this, I mean, they had the DNA, they had the forensic, they're ready to go. And this jury comes back on March 5th, 2009, and says she is guilty on all counts. Not only is she guilty on all counts, so the murder, the attempted murder of her daughter, and the forgery of the will, we're going to give her
Yes.
51 years in prison. Could you imagine being a juror and listening to this daughter and this mother and seeing the other family members out there? Oh my
Well, the
goodness.
issue with some of the other family members, specifically Stacey Castor's mom, who is the grandmother of the daughters, actually
Mhm.
believes Stacey is innocent and that her granddaughter committed these crimes. And it's her grandmother and one of their uncles that still believe
Yeah.
that it is not Stacey Castor's fault that these murders happened, it's their niece or granddaughter that committed these murders.
Well, yeah, and so you take all that into account. These poor girls, I just can't even. And the divide this puts in a family. But then now they're saying the district attorney, I got to look at my notes because I don't want to get this wrong. There was an investigation around the 2002 death of her father.
Yes.
His name was Jerry Daniels. I really don't want to mess this up, so don't mind me while I look. Um, they stated that he was recuperating from like a lung respiratory type problem, and he was in the hospital. And Stacy brought him in an open soda,
Yes.
and he like what died the next day, like suddenly, unexpectedly dead.
Yeah, so the family said and the hospital said that he was actually recuperating from a respiratory issue. Stacy came to visit, brought him an open can soda, and then within 24 hours he died. So they were looking at that as well. I did want to comment for Mr. Great Shot. The 51 years doesn't seem like enough. You're absolutely correct.
Absolutely.
But
Mhm.
in the state law of New York, because she was already in her 40s, it was almost like it was a life sentence because she wasn't going to get out before, 91 or 92. So that was the max that they gave her at the time, and that was due to the county within New York's city limit.
I still like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
51, you're like, really?
Yeah.
But so, she went to jail. She went to prison in New York, and she kept doing these interviews. I think there was a 2020 interview.
Yes.
She did a few where she's like, to this day, or not to this day, but to the end of her life, she was like, I didn't do it. It was my daughter. She clung to that story. And when you listen to her talk, she'd talk about Michael Wallace was the love of her life. You know, we met when I was in high school and he was everything I ever wanted. And then her daughters were like, the minute that trial was over, they're like, peace out. They never spoke to her again. They never had anything to do with her. They were just putting their lives back together.
Absolutely. And, Ashley gave a victim impact statement at the court. It is on YouTube, and I have watched it and listened to it. And it is heartbreaking to hear this teenage girl, just tell what their mother did to her. And how can you put that into your brain of scope to be like, okay, I love my mom because she's my mom, but then and then she also states, but I also hate her, and how emotional that is for her and how confusing it is. And to think about that is very hard to try to compartmentalize, right? Because you think of your mom as this person that does all the stuff for you and cares for you and loves you, but then you have to look on the other side and say, the person that's supposed to love me, that brought me into this world, tried to kill me and blame these murders on me. And you can't really mesh that together to try to have an understanding. So if you do want to see her impact statement, it is very powerful. And, you can definitely feel the raw emotion when it comes to that. And you can just hear her like through the whole thing. And I
believe we linked that below in the description. But think of it this way. So we, of course, know how screwed up Ashley has to be at this point emotionally. And then let's not forget about Bree. Now, Bree has to look at, this was my mom, this was my dad, and this is my sister. So there's a whole different gamut of emotions there. Right. And they've now lost their grandma who thinks that Ashley did it.
Yeah, it's a very hard thing to try to understand, or even try to start to where you can think how they feel, to try to put yourself there. I think that's the one thing through all of these cases that I try to do is, if I was in that situation, like, how would I feel? How would I react? Unfortunately, there's a lot of unknowns in that. So the way I would feel or I'd react is going to be completely different.
And we don't know. I mean,
right. You don't know. Right. And like you stated, Stacey did go on to Dateline in like 2020 and all of these and defended herself. And she's the only crime that she admitted was that she did forge the will.
She did admit to that.
That was the only thing she admitted to. Everything else she said was, Ashley, I had nothing to do with it. I can't believe you would think I would do something like that.
Yeah.
She was always on the defensive.
So on the back end of this, I do have to, let's talk a little bit about irony. So she's in prison. She's being famous. She's, look at me. I didn't do it. Poor me. I'm a victim. Very narcissistic. She died in her cell. She died on June 11th of 2016. She died of a heart attack.
Right.
So that's kind of like her first husband did of a heart
they say
attack.
A parent. They said they did an investigation because there didn't seem to be any foul play because they just found her in her cell.
They did no autopsy. They were like, yeah, in the end, it was a heart attack.
Right. And she was only 6 years in to her 51-year sentence because she passed when she was 48 years old. So she did 6 years in jail and then she was out. So she really didn't pay for her.
To put that in perspective, I'm 48. That would be like me just dropping dead of a heart attack.
Right.
I mean, maybe it happened. Could be.
It could be. Maybe she had a stream of conscious decisions and she's like, I can't believe I did this, and maybe it freaked her out. I mean, I don't know.
Her history
I would like to think
it could be.
Right. I would like to think that, there would be some type of remorse, at some point. That'd be great if they found crystals because, that would be, that'd be good.
God, that made me laugh. Thank you.
Cheech, yes, guilt. So guilt is a very, very raw and tough
Mhm.
emotion that can take its toll on a lot of people. But if you don't have a conscience, that feeling's probably
Yeah.
not even going to enter
Well,
your
I look at
system
the
of wanting
fact,
to deal with it.
I mean, I don't know what happened. Maybe she may have very well died of a heart attack. I
Yeah.
also know that people that hurt their children in that way make a lot of enemies. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. Through all of the research, and yes, I watched First 48. I watched all, like, Gone to Prison and Out and all these kind of shows. And the one thing that is apparent is people that either kill children or hurt women or anything like that are people that tell on other criminals are definitely have a target on their back.
Yeah.
That's why they have different populations. They have general population, and then they have a different population for the people that hurt children and all this other stuff. And they do that, unfortunately, to keep themselves. I'm not a proponent of that. I think it should be general population for all, and you get what you get. But I'm kind of harsh on that. But I also don't do anything to go to prison, so I guess that can be my opinion. But I mean, if you've gone to prison and you think my opinion's wrong, let me know. But I mean, if you're there for something like that, then no, I don't
Yeah.
think you should get some special treatment because of what you did.
Well, I think we're all in agreement that this is one case that ended pretty much how it should have.
Yeah, yeah,
I
she
will
didn't
give
live a
you a
long
quick
life, so
I'll give you a quick update. I did a little research on kind of like I was curious, and I'm not going to share too many of their details because it's not my place. But I was very curious about these children, and um, what I could find is that Ashley Wallace, she moved on. She stayed in New York. I don't know if she's still in New York, but up until about 2020, she was in New York. She was engaged to be married, and she was just trying to live her life and move on. I could find nothing on Bree. Jen, I don't know if you found anything on Bree.
no, I had the hardest time finding anything on Bree. Most of the articles I was able to find on updates for anything regarding the daughters was on Ashley, and I believe that is because she was such a pivotal point on that, and because
Yeah.
she had, she was the one that was, tried to get
Mhm.
taken out and attempted murder and all that. So they really did that. So Ashley actually did a special on Oprah's network, on her website, I believe, just going over, she really credits her psychologist, her doctors, the family
Yeah.
that's still there in order to get her through this, in order to kind of give her some sense of normalcy. And she is either married or about to get married.
Yeah.
So she's moving on and she's making really good steps for herself. I could find nothing on Brie.
But
I,
you know
I
what?
literally,
Good
I
for
looked
Bree.
everywhere. I
It's
couldn't find
not
anything
our
on her.
place to find stuff on Bree. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so I mean, I hope she's awesome and she's
Yeah.
and she's doing good after everything she's went through. I'm sure she's probably still close to her sister after everything like that. Northwest Bourbon, yes, prison yard justice. I'm a big proponent of that. Yeah, get what you get.
So I
Yes,
do want to
Lilith, it is
say,
also for snitches.
I want people to feel like we can hang out a little bit and talk about this. But before people do start like dropping off, I do want to say something. Um, this has been an amazing stream. I've I've enjoyed the fact that Jen and I were both so passionate about this case. And that I was so scared I wasn't going to like her cocktail because I thought it would be too sweet. So I'm super excited that I liked the cocktail.
I don't, to be honest, I'm not a big sweet cocktail person. I'm more on the tart side.
Yeah. You are a little tart.
I
I'm just
am.
saying. But
Cheat says I'm a little salty. So.
yeah, well, Jen Artolino, tough on crime. That's right.
Yes, that is my campaign slogan.
But I do want to say so. As we are, rolling out this channel, right now we're just doing. At least they did have different. Yes, they kept their biological father's name, and they're moving on. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't blame them at this point. So.
Oh, thank you, Mike Stahl. I appreciate that. And yes, I do
Oh,
see what you did
did
there.
you see this? Eric Thompson watched Ashley's victim impact statement. Yes. I can't even tell
Absolutely.
you.
She had no emotion at all. I think that was more crushing than her actual statement was to see a mother sit there just stone cold and not have any emotion, watching their daughter just like crumble in front of them and
Yeah.
knowing that you did that and you just have no feeling for it.
As a mom, this was a hard case to kind of really, because, we have to condense it all down into a nutshell, but really getting into the bones of it as a mom was very hard,
Yes, it was. Thank
you
you,
know?
Adriana. It was, and I think that's it's a big step, right? Because you look at different things depending on where you are in your life. Before I had my daughter, to be honest, I listened to every true crime thing. It didn't matter what it was. I listened to everything. Now I can't listen to any true crime things that involve children.
Yeah.
And that's just because I have one, and so that
Mhm.
hits too close to home because I do try to put myself in that situation to see how they're thinking, like how you're feeling, and that is just too rough for me.
Yeah.
I'm a rough and tumble type of person, but my little girl, it's just too
Those
close
kids
to
will
home.
break your heart every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I do want to say that rolling out this channel, we're kind of still figuring out, but this was awesome. I'm so glad you guys hung out with us. You definitely you're helping us figure out what this channel is. And I've gotten a lot of messages and emails and Jen as well of people kind of giving us ideas of cases they would like to see and cocktails they'd like to try.
Absolutely,
Um,
right, cheesy.
we have we have some great collaborations coming up on our regular Wednesday streams. So not only is our last Wednesday of the month the criminals and cocktails, we have some wonderful collaborations coming up. So
Yes.
that'll be exciting to roll out. Um, so please put in the comments, put in the chat anything that you would like, any cases you'd like to see us dig into. We're not ignoring. If you put it in there, we write it down, and we
Absolutely.
start digging. And
I've
then
gotten some messages in Messenger and I've written them down. I've gotten
yeah.
some from Kira as
Mhm.
well, that are interesting. I know the one she sent me, so those are some good ones.
Yeah, and I've got a handful. I know you and I talked about kind of putting those together and talking about them.
Yes.
Um, and then also cocktails. We're kind of guessing at what kind of cocktails. And Jen is going to start putting out her cocktail ingredients about a week prior. So those of
Yes.
you that want to make and drink with us can gather up all your supplies and we'll talk some crime and drink some drink. And um, this in December, again, just kind of like November, we're not going to do the last Wednesday of the month due to Christmas.
Yes.
So it will be it's technically
It's the third, but I
no,
think it's December 15th, I believe.
yeah, you're right. Okay. So December 15th, we're going to do our criminals and cocktails. We will be announcing this week what that case will look like.
Yes.
I hope you all can join us. And then even though we did our criminals and cocktails tonight, we are still streaming next Wednesday. It's just going to be a nice light check-in. We're going to drink some stuffs and talks about it and get ready for
Absolutely.
the Thanksgiving holiday. I think we're probably looking at what kind of bottles would we crack for Thanksgiving or what bottle you could bring to Thanksgiving dinner.
Yep, what you would
Um,
share with friends and family.
yeah, because let's face it, whiskey is about sharing. So
Absolutely.
again, throw down into chat what bottles are you sharing for Thanksgiving? Because we are just about gathering information. So
Yes, absolutely. And if you have any cocktails that you're interested in seeing, definitely let me know. Roy Ren's actually already sent me one, so I have that already saved. He already sent me the ingredients and a picture, so he was really thorough on it, and he said it's very good. He makes it for his wife a few times, so I'm gonna check that one out.
Jerry Black, you are right. Jen absolutely needs to make a recipe book.
Ah, I should. I'll have to make one.
You just start printing these out, hold them all together, and then we'll get that thing bound and printed.
Yeah, I started that with when I started my baking journey, and I have like a spiral, and I only have it in pencil because I cross stuff out before I make my final recipe, and that's actually a suggestion that Cheech had, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thanks, Cheech.
Those darn husbands, they're so great.
You know,
Till they
I
lock themselves in the bedroom and we leave them there
not
for a
to
weekend.
brag. I mean, like I'm very fortunate for Cheech. He does help me out a lot, especially on the stream, and we have an awesome kid, so. I am fortunate in that respect. So I have to
You
brag a
do
little
have an
bit.
awesome
Thanks,
kid. Your kid is
Cheech.
pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, thanks. She really likes you. If I'm on the phone, she's like, "Oh, is that Michelle?" Yeah, she's
Well,
stoked.
everybody, thank you so much for hanging out. I mean, the fact that we still have as many people in the chat as we do just warms my heart. You guys have been so supportive of us. You know, um, you start something like this, you're a little apprehensive, and wow, I mean, this has been fun. I've enjoyed it. I know Jen,
Yes,
we talk about this. This community is amazing. Thank you so much.
we do. Thank you, everyone, and cheers, everyone, for coming. We definitely enjoyed the stream. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you for being with us, and I hope I get to see you all next week. And cheers, and thanks for coming.
Cheers. Hit the like button on your way out and make sure you check the links that my mods dropped because these are all people that have supported us and we support them. So,
Absolutely.
love you guys. Good night.
Good night, y'all. Have a good one.